As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. I want to talk about Fortnite, Apple, Epic, because there's been a development in that story, and I think it's an important one.
Let's do it.
And the headline here is Fortnite blacklisted by Apple, Epic Games CEO says. So Apple could keep Fortnite off Mac and iOS for 5 years. Basically, so following the ruling that we had discussed previously on the live stream where, you know, it was kind of a minor win for Epic, sort of, where Apple had to, allow for alternative payment methods for apps on the App Store. Now, basically, Apple has decided that they're just going to blacklist Fortnite from their ecosystem. And so you still won't be able to use or download or play Fortnite on iOS devices. And Tim Sweeney, at least, is saying that this could keep the game off the platform for at least 5 years, which, let's face it, is probably end of life for Fortnite. Curious what you guys make of this. Any thoughts on this development? Who loves it as much as I do?
Yeah, I would love to take this one because when this ruling initially came down and everyone was talking about the payment system thing, the first thing I read that stuck out is the judge ruling that Apple's App Store is not an antitrust violation, which meant that they could keep their closed garden model. And that was the first thing I said was, this is a way bigger deal than the payments thing. And everyone got so caught up in the payments thing. But this is the first example of why that's a huge deal, because the judge said, you can do what you want. This is not an antitrust violation for you to run your platform like this. And they are doing what they want. And it is not a violation of anything for them to run their platform like that, as it was ruled. So already that ruling, which everyone was so excited for Epic about, is already coming back to kind of bite them in the butt.
It feels very petty to me. And it also feels like something that could actually end up coming back to haunt them in future rulings, right? It's like a really good way to show that you're not a monopoly is to act like a monopoly. Like, to me, it just seems very odd where you're trying to be, oh no, we're actually not evil. Our 30% is justified. We're not the big bad monopoly. But yeah, you can't play in our walled garden that we've constructed that you need to get in order to access our users. Like, to me, that's a really bad strategy.
It's not a walled garden. Buy a different phone. Or it's not a monopoly.
Yeah.
Again, all I'm saying is it feels like a very bad strategy when you've effectively won the case. At least that's what we're saying. Yeah. And then your first move is to punch down and hurt the person. Like, it's very petty and vindictive.
It's optics. The optics.
It's not good to me.
Yeah.
No.
Let me back Jeff, because I think Jeff and I are actually in agreement here, right? I think they won, right? Let's start with that. They won. And I think what Fortnite has gone through, like, the point has been made. You know what I mean? I don't think there's a long line out the door for people ready to challenge Apple after that experience, right? I think the risk for Apple is this is just one ruling, right? And now they're taking an action that seems, you might say, that maybe could be argued to be anti-competitive in a future context, right? It feels an unnecessary risk to take. Like, these guys have already been punished. Why do you need to punish them more? You know, and I get it. I get that they really want to protect the sanctity of that business model because it's the core of what Apple is building. But I think paradoxically, by overprotecting it, you create liabilities in future.
This is how you I totally disagree with you guys, right? Like, they didn't pick this fight. This fight was picked with them. And I think Apple is sending a clear message. And this is the beauty of this, right? Which is, you mess with us, we will bury you. And what are the chances you think another developer takes on Apple over the App Store.
It's not
Zero
what's
at
gonna
this
happen.
point.
The problem is
Zero.
what's going to happen. What's going to happen is this is fodder for the politicians, the legislators, the
Who?
lawmakers.
Who?
What do you mean who?
Why would they look at this and care
Apple
that Fortnite is not on the App Store?
because it shows exactly that they're the bully. This war. Number one, I would push back a little bit on that. Apple completely won a slam dunk, right? The fact that you now can push people to third-party payments is a massive win for the mobile ecosystem.
No one's going to use it. No one's going to use it. I'm telling you.
There will be big publishers will absolutely use it. I think it will be. It is a big win for the ecosystem, if not for Epic. Clearly, Epic seems to be the one that had to fall on their sword. Epic has objectively lost here. I think it's still a big move for the mobile ecosystem and a pretty decent sized blow potentially for Apple. But I think Apple was never going to lose this case. I think what Epic was always playing to was the court of public opinion, right? Like they were always making this, hey, we're the little guy, Apple's the monopolist, Apple's screwing us. And I think Apple is playing directly into that PR strategy, which has the potential to be really dangerous when you have politicians in the US that love bashing big tech companies and they get a lot of points from their constituents from, how many young people that are voters like Fortnite. Hey, Apple's bashing Fortnite, Apple's hurting Fortnite. This is something where a politician can score points by hurting big tech who's acting like a monopoly. And you may disagree, but I guarantee you that's the next shoe that's dropping here is that you're going to see politicians, speaking up about this and how Apple's at. It's just an unforced error, in my opinion. Apple didn't have to do this. It's very petty and vindictive, in my opinion. And it has the potential to open a big flank where they could lose the court of public opinion here by acting like a monopolist.
Jimmy, you were going to say something.
I got so much to say, but I also want to move it along. I get the optics of it, Jeff, and I think the public policy side of things better than I do. On the legal side of things, the biggest winner are the legal teams on both sides, right? They both got conceivable wins for their own side, small wins that each side could be somewhat proud about or to phrase in a way that they think is helpful. Court of public opinion, Epic already launched their smear campaign. They did the whole 1984 reboot, and the merch fell flat, and it didn't. I thought it was brilliant, but it didn't work, and I was a big fan of it. But that's because I like Fortnite then. It really didn't work. Epic got completely embarrassed in this whole process. All their finances, or all this stuff that came out, just for a win that we'll see if it gets used or not. Whether or not that's a win is to be determined. Like to Lindsay's point, Apple really dodged a bullet here on I think the real points at issue. The lawyers on both sides are kind of bragging wins. I get what you mean about the optics, like I really do, and I don't disagree with you. But to Apple's point, if they already won what really mattered, why would they cave on anything else? Like the appeal process can go for another 5 years, so they're going to flex for another 5 years because they can. I don't see that changing the opinion of them any more than the underlying suit did, I guess is my point.
I just want to read a statement from Amy Klobuchar, chairwoman of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Competition Policy, Antitrust, and Consumer Rights. She said, this ruling reaffirms what we heard in our Senate hearing last spring. App stores raised serious competition concerns. While the ruling addresses some of these concerns, much more must be done. We need to pass federal legislation on App Store conduct to protect consumers and promote competition. If you don't think that there's going to be another shoe to drop and she's not going to love the fact that Apple's throwing chum in the water that she can eat up, I'm just saying, if you're Apple, why do this?
How many monopolies have been broken up since Standard Oil? How many?
Microsoft.
Microsoft was not broken up.
They went through a whole decade of antitrust, and it really hurt them.
And they were fine.
Guys, let me look what's on the screen. Okay, number one, world's most admired company. What is number one? What is number one? It's Apple. No one is gonna care what a few whiny Fortnite players think about Apple. The people deep down love the closed ecosystem. It's what makes Apple great. It's what makes their products great. No one's getting rid of that. No one's breaking it up. Politicians can talk all they want. It's impossible to actually make happen. Like this, here's the first rule of business that Tim Sweeney broke, and for all his billions, he's kind of stupid from a business standpoint. Like he may be a great programmer, but he's not a smart businessman. you don't pick a fight that you don't know for sure you can win. And he picked a fight that there was a very high chance of losing, and he has lost big, right? Apple's not going to care, but this could be truly the end of Fortnite, right? Fortnite will have some legs, but I don't think it will have nearly the longevity it may have had without iOS and the App Store. And he lost, plain and simple. I called it. I said he was going to lose big. He lost big. I don't think there's any coming back from this. And I'm curious what you guys in the chat think. I'll just read some of these comments. Ramsey says, really wondering what he expected out of all this. Ramsey, my simple view is this was pure ego on Tim Sweeney's part. He thought he was going to be the leader of a crusade, that the people were going to get behind him, and he massively miscalculated. And frankly, he didn't have his business in mind. It was really poor business judgment, if you ask me. Greg says, doesn't Apple have a claim? They are blocking Epic while the case is on appeal. Doesn't Apple have a claim? They are blocking Epic?
They probably do, I'm sure.
Greg's supporting Apple
Yeah.
preventing Fortnite on the App Store because while it goes through appeal, nothing's officially decided, so they can continue to bar them from the platform, which is absolutely right. And kind of what Jeff said is poor optics and poor sportsmanship, I suppose. And what kind of the rest of us, or not the rest, but Lindsay Paul and I spoke to was, hey, they already lost, or rather Fortnite's attempt to smear them already lost with the 1984
It's war.
campaign.
The
So
conversation
Did Tim
moved
think it
on.
wasn't going to get messy? Like, you started a war. What did you think was going to happen? It was going to be neat and polite?
Apple doesn't have a lot of, it's right. Not just war, it's strategy, and you play the cards that you're kind of forced to play, and that's one of their cards that they can play. And like, I don't know, Apple, like, or rather Fortnite, like you said, kind of lost. We see that in the viewership and in the numbers, right? As soon as they were pulled from the App Store, Fortnite went down. Their reign of terror went, stopped, right? Other games took the spotlight. It made room for Call of Duty. It made room for Roblox and Minecraft, right, to come back. So, and that was really, we all think because they lost their, what was that, 30-40% of their users that were on iOS. It's massive. You can't sustain that. 10% would be a huge hit.
Well,
To be
let me
fair,
ask
that's
the
not
tough
necessarily
question.
what we're arguing here. We're arguing,
No, I know,
did Apple now make a blunder? I think we all agree that Epic kind of shot themselves in the foot. Epic lost here. I think we all agree with that. It was more, did Apple make a mistake now with what they've done?
I think Apple had to send that message.
To be honest, I read Tim Sweeney's tweet as like a little whiny.
But he's been whiny the whole time.
Yeah, it just hasn't the Braveheart quote picture thing. Like, I just don't think that he absolutely could have made a case in the court of public opinion and never even brought it into the legal side that I think could have been very persuasive, but he chose not to do that. And it's clearly coming back to not work. And I don't think that this behavior on the part of Apple is anything other than fair based on the ruling that was made in an extremely liberal state by an extremely liberal judge who has made clear that she has negative opinions of big tech. So we're talking about Apple getting a win in an environment where it probably shouldn't have, or where people really didn't think it was going to because the judge was so harsh. So I just can't see I can't see any moves that Epic's made thus far as being beneficial. And I'm not a huge fan of Apple's practices, but I can't say that any of them are even bad or out of bounds.
100% agree. And it's also just funny. Like, of all things to take on, of every company you could potentially smear, you go after the most admired company on the planet, right? Like the one whose users have more admiration and love for than literally any other company on the planet. Talk about the worst possible target to go after. He's just very, 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 very bad judgment. Very bad judgment. And I guess my question for you guys is, Epic's going to have to raise another financing round if they don't go public. Who here thinks that there won't be an increase in the valuation, or at least not a significant one? Potentially maybe even a down round. Jeff, you have thoughts on this?
I think it'll probably be, all the public stocks have cooled off a bit. So, you could see it be just a small increase. I mean, they went up massively right from their like round previously. So maybe it would be a smaller increase. They'll probably will go public next. I think there'd still be a ton of demand.
Ramsey, I had a question here. Why do you think no one will use the third-party payment system? Ramsey, I'll we had talked about this on a previous live stream, so I'll just like summarize my view really quickly. The average iOS like user is my mom, right? And if she has to, futz with a different payment system, something that doesn't just require like a simple click or a tap or whatever, and if she has issues, who does she call? Companies will have to have customer support people to service, they'll have to have billing, they'll have to have all kinds of infrastructure to support direct billing of the customer. And it will become a nightmare for most. It will become a nightmare for most customers. And I think most will just say, we'd rather pay Apple their cut and not have to deal with that. I just think it's too much friction, and most will realize it makes a lot more sense to just pay Apple.
Apple's big selling point too is its privacy. So all they have to say is, we keep your transactions private and secure. Don't use those other ones. It's scary. The end.